In the late 80s and early 1990s, European gamers were obsessed with the Sega Master System as the home console of choice. The NES was barely on people's radars, but unfortunately that meant that there were certain games that you never got a chance to play. Despite Sega's amazing arcade heritage and the willingness of some third-party publishers to make games for the system, Nintendo maintained a stranglehold over certain publishers. One of the most notable games never to appear on the Sega systems at the time was Castlevania, although this would eventually appear on the Mega Drive. However, if you wanted to play Konami's amazing horror-themed platform action game, you needed a Nintendo NES. That was until 1992, when Master of Darkness appeared. Master of Darkness was coded by Sims on behalf of Sega and was meant to be Sega's own attempt at a Castlevania type game. And, well, it is, in essence. So today, we're going to have a quick look at the game, and I'm going to tell you what I think about it. So, Master of Darkness tells the story of psychic researcher Dr. Ferdinand Social. Yes, that's his name. It's strange. Get over it. And his investigations into a bunch of mysterious, brutal crimes affecting Victorian London. Now, these crimes are blamed on Jack the Ripper. Because, hey, it's Victorian London, and who else is going to be murdering people? Well, it turns out as you play the game that they actually are the responsibility of Jack the Ripper. Although Jack the Ripper is committing these murders not for his own benefit, really, but to enact a dark blood ritual designed to resurrect Dracula, Lord of the Vampires. Yes, that's the plot they've gone with here. It's kind of Castlevania-esque. You know, Castlevania have had plenty of resurrect Dracula plots, but that's the one that Sims and Sega chose to go with on this one. Now, as you can see here, there's a rather nice little intro sequence going on, which helps set the scene for the story. Ooh, yes, Dracula. Spaced out for emphasis. And here he is, the titular Count. Again, it's a nicely done scene, but anyway, back to the game itself. So, you have this lovely little cutscene introducing Dr. Social, and then you're back to the title screen, just press start, and away we go. Again, you have these lovely little intro and outro sequences. It's something that many games at the time really didn't bother with. They'd just go straight into the game and you would go from level to level, but it's quite clear that Sims put some real graft into this title and really wanted to make the presentation as good as possible. Now, you play through 5 levels, each with 3 stages, and it's a reasonably lengthy title. You know, these are not brief stages. It keeps going for quite some time. So, excuse me, people. Here we are. We're about to start level 1, and you will see immediately just how much of an influence Castlevania had on this title, not just in it being a horror-themed platformer. There are elements which are taken directly from the Castlevania games. For example, swooping bats. These masks which replace the candles that you'll find within the Castlevania games. The staircase there on the right looks just like a Castlevania one. And of course, objects are hidden in breakable walls. Now, I have to be honest, this looks pretty good for a Master System game. It's certainly a far, far better looking title than anything that was being produced on the NES. You know, it plays to the Master System's advantage with its much higher colour palette and the ability to display more colours on screen. And as a game, it actually plays pretty well. The controls are fairly tight. You know, everything looks and moves quite nicely. It even sounds quite good, although you obviously can't hear it here because I'm blathering away like an idiot. But it is a nice game. It's fun, it's interesting, and yeah, it's as close as you were ever going to get on the Master System to a Castlevania title, because no matter what deal had been struck to get Castlevania onto the Mega Drive, it wasn't going to happen for the Master System, because realistically, being a European-only machine at this point, and Brazil, there was no need for Konami to produce an 8-bit version of the Castlevania franchise for Sega. So Sega did it themselves, and they did a pretty good job. You know, there are recognisably Castlevania elements everywhere. Now, I've heard various complaints from people about the difficulty or not of this game. I think the opening stage here is relatively easy. It's a nice intro to the game and its mechanics, but there are certainly elements later on in the game that are more complicated and difficult, like a Castlevania title. Again, this is another piece of that design philosophy that Sega copied. A nice intro section to get you used to the controls. As you can see, I accidentally pressed pause here and confused myself for a moment. And then something a bit more challenging the further you get into the game, which is perfectly fine. Yes, to get onto the stage, you might notice I have a few issues. That's because in another moment stolen from the Castlevania titles, you have to do a weird diagonal press. Now, I'm not the greatest gamer in the world, I freely admit this. So basically, here I am at the end of level 1, stage 1, and this is basically where I'm going to leave it, because once I get much past this point, it's just deaths, and deaths. But, as you can now see on screen, there were a variety of different stages. I believe you work your way through London before eventually being transported to Dracula's Transylvania home, where you had to work your way through the labyrinth-like castle to find and defeat him. Now, as I said, Master of Darkness is a Castlevania clone, but it's a good one. And to be honest, if I was going to recommend a game like this to somebody who had a system that wasn't a NES, this would be the one. There aren't really many games like it in terms of theming. Yes, the Master System has a plethora of platform titles, but this game is pretty unique on the platform, and I would say if you can get a copy for a decent price, it's worth it. Even try it on emulation first just to see if you like it, but I guarantee if you enjoy a Castlevania title, you will enjoy Master of Darkness. Anyway, that's all from me today. I'm Rob, this is 81632-bit. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you really like it and you've watched all my others and like them, please subscribe. Leave a comment down below to let me know what you think. And if you don't like it, give me a thumbs down and tell me why. I'm always looking to improve. So, this is Rob saying so long, and I'll see you next time.